It's good to have you with us at this hour. I'm Daniel Che for Arirang News. If you study Asian politics or history, you will come across this name several times for sure, Lee Kuan Yew. Well, Singaporeans gathered to bid a final farewell to their beloved founding father, Lee Kuan Yew, on Sunday. President Park Geun-hye, who had maintained close relations with the former prime minister, was in attendance alongside the dozens of other world leaders who had come to pay their respects. Our Choi You-sun files us this report all the way from Singapore.
Under a heavy downpour, thousands of Singaporeans packed the streets of the city-state on Sunday to express their love and appreciation for Lee Kuan Yew, who died Monday at the age of 91. From the Parliament House, where the body has been laid since Wednesday, the former Prime Minister's coffin made a final tour of the city, the place of Lee's 6 decades-long political legacy. Dozens of former and current world leaders came to pay their respects at the state funeral. President Park Geun-hye, whose special relationship with the former Prime Minister dates back to her father's presidency in 1979, was also there. In the condolence book, she wrote that Lee was a monumental leader whose name will remain forever engraved in the pages of world history. Outside the funeral venue, people gathered at tribute sites across Singapore to remember the statesman recognized for transforming the former British outpost to a global trading and financial hub in just a single generation.
He was a great man. Without him, Singapore will not be what it is today.
What he has done is never expressed in words. We really appreciate it. That's why we are here to pay tribute to him.
Even those who didn't support Lee's policies on dissent and public order expressed their appreciation for the leader, adding he was like a very strict father.
As I travel around the world and seeing, other countries and comparing to what Singapore has today, we come to realize that what he did was actually for the best for his nation and for his people.
President Park has said that she hopes to enhance bilateral ties with current Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong. This Seoul, with its growth initiative, seeks to learn from Singapore's rise to a global financial and distribution hub after overcoming similar obstacles like lack of resources and a complex geopolitical environment. Choi You-sun, Arirang News, Singapore.
It's not often that a South Korean president attends a foreign leader's funeral, but President Park has a special connection to late Singaporean Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew, as did her father, the late President Park Geun-hye. Our Kwon So-hwa has more on the Singaporean leader's special relationship with Korea.
1979 was the year Singapore's first Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew first visited South Korea for a summit with then-President Park Geun-hye. It's also when he met President Park Geun-hye. She was 22 and the acting First Lady. Since then, Lee made a total of 6 visits to Korea, meeting nearly all the Korean presidents that followed. An eyewitness to Korea's rapid industrial and agricultural developments, Singapore's founding father spoke highly of President Park Geun-hye's rural development policies. And the admiration was not one-sided. Former President Lee Myung-bak said he was inspired by Lee Kuan Yew's business philosophy even before his Cheongwade years. But Korean leaders did not always see eye to eye with the former prime minister. Once Lee had a heated debate over the political ideology of Asian values, while he focused on culture, late Korean leader Kim Dae-jung championed democracy. At times, Lee unabashedly criticized Korea's conglomerate-focused economy.
With only 2% of asset holdings, families of Korea's top 30 chaebols have been able to control 331 trillion in assets. Fully control board and management over investment is unjust, it's wrong.
Differences aside, Lee Kuan Yew always remained a friend, nurturing diplomatic and economic cooperation between Korea and Singapore over the years. Korean leaders say he's the driving force behind close bilateral ties to this day. Kwon So-hwa, Arirang News.
The movers and shakers around the world were there, and at a reception hosted by Singapore's Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew after the funeral for the late Singaporean leader, President Park Geun-hye met with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. The Japanese leader thanked President Park for making a recent trilateral foreign ministers meeting in Seoul a success and agreed with President Park that three countries should take necessary steps to follow through with the agreements reached during the talks. She also met with Chinese Vice Premier Lee Kuan Yew. Both expressed hopes for closer coordination on the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank following Korea's announcement Friday it would join. The Korean president also spoke with former U.S. President Bill Clinton, former National Security Advisor Thomas Donilon, and statesman Henry Kissinger. The three vowed to share their expertise to help further strengthen the Korea-U.S. alliance. Japan is seeking to hold an informal meeting with other members of long-stalled talks on North Korea's nuclear program by the end of June. Reports said Sunday Japan is hoping to bring together representatives of the six-party talks when the next Northeast Asia Cooperation Dialogue is held in Tokyo. The dialogue, hosted by a U.S. research institute, brings together senior government officials from the countries involved in the six-party talks: China, Russia, North Korea, South Korea, the U.S., and Japan. The six-party talks, last held in 2008, are aimed at dismantling North Korea's nuclear program. At the upcoming Cooperation Dialogue meeting, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is also reportedly seeking to make progress on the issue of Japanese nationals abducted by Pyongyang decades ago. North Korea has criticized President Park Geun-hye for her speech last week marking the 5th anniversary of North Korea's deadly torpedo attack on the South Korean warship Cheonan that killed 46 sailors. The North's National Defense Commission said in a report by the Korean Central News Agency on Sunday that President Park is making poor use of the incident and demanded that sanctions Seoul imposed on Pyongyang for the Cheonan sinking be lifted. The North also said it cannot expect any improvement in inter-Korean relations under the Park administration. During her speech last Thursday, President Park had criticized the North for its military provocations and nuclear weapons development. A South Korea-led international investigation concluded the Cheonan was sunk by a North Korean torpedo, while Pyongyang says it is not responsible. The U.S. Director of National Intelligence says North Korea has taken steps to deploy a long-range mobile intercontinental ballistic missile capable of reaching the U.S. On top of that, the reclusive regime is moving to expand its uranium enrichment facilities. Our Park Ji-won tells us more.
This is the KN-08 intercontinental ballistic missile, which made its first public appearance during a military parade in North Korea in April 2012 to mark the 100th anniversary of the birth of the country's founder, Kim Il-sung. It is estimated to have a maximum potential range of roughly 12,000 kilometers, enough to reach U.S. soil. U.S. Director of National Intelligence James Clapper said in written testimony recently submitted to a U.S. House committee that North Korea is taking steps towards the missile's early deployment. Other U.S. defense experts have previously warned that North Korea is capable of fielding intercontinental ballistic missiles, although they haven't yet been flight tested.
We believe that they have the technical capabilities and the skill to produce an ICBM. They claim that they have done so.
Regarding Pyongyang's nuclear development program, Clapper, the U.S. National Intelligence Chief, said that North Korea has expanded its uranium enrichment facilities at its Yongbyon nuclear complex, following its third nuclear test in February 2013. He added that North Korea is focusing on developing its weapons of mass destruction, missiles and nuclear arms, and exporting the technologies to other countries, including Iran and Syria. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Moving on to some positive developments, Korea and Vietnam have initiated a bilateral free trade agreement following a series of bilateral trade negotiations completed late last year. Korea's Trade Ministry said Sunday the deal was initialed in Seoul on Saturday. The two countries aim to formally sign the trade pact within the first half of the year and will put it into effect by the end of the year. Under the deal, Korea and Vietnam will remove import tariffs on more than 90% of trade items except rice, a sensitive item for Korean farmers. The Trade Ministry expects the deal to help Korea's small and mid-sized businesses, particularly those in textiles, auto parts, and electronics, to expand their exports to Vietnam. Korean manufacturers are feeling positive about their business conditions for the coming quarter. According to a survey of more than 3,000 companies by the Korea Institute for Industrial Economics and Trade, the business survey index for the manufacturing sector has risen 19 points from the previous quarter to 110 for the April to June period. A reading below 100 means pessimists outnumber optimists. The survey attributes the positive outlook to favorable conditions at home and abroad, namely the U.S. economic recovery and a rate cut by the Bank of Korea earlier this month to a record low of 1.75%. Meanwhile, the Korean government is pumping an additional $18 billion into a new program that allows mortgage borrowers to switch to low fixed rate loans. This as part of efforts to tackle the country's snowballing household debt. The Financial Services Commission says the second phase of the program will prioritize borrowers in the low-income bracket after the first loans were snapped up in a matter of 4 days last week. Authorities expect the new program will help borrowers lower their household debt by allowing them to repay their loans over a longer period of time. The new mortgage rates are between 2.5 to 2.7%, lower than the 3% range previously offered. Korea's total household debt of roughly $900 billion is seen as a big stumbling block to boosting consumer spending and reviving the economy. And now the weather. Masks, don't leave home without them because yellow dust levels are high on Monday morning early. The mercury will rise to 21 in Seoul and 24 in Daegu, which is unusual as these are digits usually reached in the month of May. But temperatures will be lower early in the morning and late in the evening, so be prepared for that as well. Let's check out the weather conditions outside of Korea, around the world. And we've come to the end of our newscast. Thank you very much for watching. Do have a great start to your week.